Okay. All right. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. We are back. Here, let me make some adjustments here. Okay. We are back. We are going to be dealing with the Torah portion for this week. I want to get right into things because I think we have a lot that we want to get into. There's a lot to be said about where we are in the Torah this week. We're going to be looking at Exodus chapter 19 through 20, verse 20. Exodus 19, verse 1 through 20, verse 20. Okay, and what we're going to be talking about, we're going to be dealing with is receiving the covenant. Receiving the covenant. When we go ahead and look at these two chapters here, we see kind of a blueprint, if you will, as to how it is we are to approach or come to the Father, the preparation that's involved in that, and then with dealing with the giving of the commands, we see that as a sealing, not only a sealing of the covenant, but kind of that codification of the covenant, right? Well, but we're gonna get into all of those things. But I want to begin. Let me see how far we want to start off in terms of the reading. We got a couple chunks of things we want to be able to read and also go over. Let's see. Let's read, I think. Okay, let's go ahead and just read 19. We'll read chapter 19, and then we'll go back and deal with a couple key components, and then we'll move on from there. So let me pull up the scriptures over here so that we can see. All right. We'll go ahead and start reading on verse 1. And just go ahead and read through that, and then we'll come back and deal with that. Okay, nice and loud.
Exodus 19. In the third new moon, after the children of Israel had come out of the land of Mitzrayim, on this day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. For they set out from Rephidim and had come to the wilderness of Sinai and camped in the wilderness. So Israel camped there before the mountain. And Moshe went up to Elohim, and Yahweh called to him from the mountain, saying, "This is what you are to say to the house of Yaakov, and declare the children of Israel. You have seen what I did to the Mithrites, and how I bore you on eagle's wings, and brought you to myself. And now, if you diligently obey my voice, and shall guard my covenant, then you shall be my treasured possession above all the peoples, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a reign of priests and a set apart nation. Those are the words which you are to speak to the children of Israel. And Moshe came and called for the elders of the people and set before them all these words which Yahweh commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, all that Yahweh has spoken, we shall do. So Moshe brought back the words of the people to Yahweh. And Yahweh said to Moshe, see, I am coming to you in thick clouds, so that the people hear when I speak with you, and believe you forever. And Moshe reported the words to the people of Yahweh. And Yahweh said to Moshe, go to the people and set them apart today and tomorrow, and they shall wash their garments, and shall be prepared by the third day. For on the third day Yahweh shall come down upon Mount Sinai before the eyes of all the people, and you shall make a border for the people all around, saying, take heed to yourselves, that you do not go up to the mountain or touch the border of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall certainly be put to death. Not a hand is to touch it, but he shall certainly be stoned or shot with an arrow. Whether man or beast, he shall not live. When the Yobel sounds long, let them come near the mountain. And Moshe came down from the mountain to the people and set the people apart, and they washed their garments. And he said to the people, be prepared by the third day. Do not come near a wife. And it came to be on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings, and a thick cloud on the mountain. And a voice of a shofar was very strong, and all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moshe brought the people out of the camp to meet with Elohim, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. And Mount Sinai was in smoke, all of it, because Yahweh descended upon it in fire, and its smoke went up like the smoke of a furnace, and all the mountain trembled exceedingly. And when a voice of the shofar sounded long and became very strong, Moshe spoke, and Elohim answered him by voice. And Yahweh came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain, and Yahweh called Moshe to the top of the mountain, and Moshe went up. And Yahweh said to Moshe, go down and warn the people, lest they break through unto Yahweh to see, and many of them fall. And let the priests who come near Yahweh set themselves apart too, lest Yahweh break out against them. And Moshe said to Yahweh, the people are not able to come up to Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, make a border around the mountain and set it apart. And Yahweh said to him, go down and then come up, you and Aaron with you. But do not let the priests and the people break through to come up to Yahweh, lest he break out against them. And Moshe went down to the people and spoke to them.
Okay, all right. Very good. So let us go back and look at a couple things over here. The first thing that we want to talk about over here is, what's getting ready to go down. If we look over here, something that's interesting that we see when we look at these scriptures over here. Actually, when you see, when we look at these verses, right, it's not exactly telling you when this is, right? You see where it says in the third month, in the third new moon, after the children of Israel had come out of the land of Mizraim, on this day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. And so this just looking at it is kind of a general thing. It's telling you in the third month. Some translations that you look at, make the argument that this is actually the first day of the third month. And so the reason that they do this, again, is something that you can't really see from looking at it, because the scripture is not literally telling you. But there's definitely there's a plausibility that when we look at this, we're able to calculate from the time that Israel left out from Mitzrayim to this point here is a total of 40. Let me see here. 46 days. Okay, and so when we look now, if we think about the days and the times, the Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks, we know is 50 days from the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And so the thought process, which really is not something that's explicitly given to us in the scripture in terms of when the giving of the Torah is, but it is a possibility that the giving of the Torah is actually on Shavuot, on that 50th day, right? On that day when you have the two witnesses. In this case, it would be the two tablets of the commandments. But we have this. I should have got this in a way where I can show you, but I'll read it off to you here. It's a commentary from Dake's Annotated, one of my favorite Bibles. It says, this perhaps means the same day the third month began, meaning the first day of the third month. Okay, the Septuagint and the Berkeley and some other versions read on the first day of the third month. Okay, so this would make the day of the giving of the law the 50th day after Israel left Egypt on the 15th day of the first month, right? We know that the day of deliverance was the 15th day, right? And then so now, if the 15th day on that year happened to be on a Sabbath, then the first day, the next day, would have been the first day of the week, which would be the 16th day, which would be the starting of the count. So you start 50 days from that 16th day that just happened to be the first day of the week. Okay, so the 16th on the first month to and including the first day and the third month would be, that's 46 days. So Moses, we read, went up into the mountain on the next day after camping in the mount, or on the second day of the third month. So we saw that Moses went up, and then the law was given the third day of the 3 days of the sanctification. So he goes up to the mountain top to speak to the Most High, and says to tell the people to sanctify themselves for 3 days. So he goes up, that's a day, right? And then 3 more days of sanctification, that's 4 days. So 46 and 4 is 50, right? And so again, it's inside the scope of possibility that the law was given to us on Shavuot. Now, if we look at this from a prophetic standpoint now, and move forward to the New Testament, which really just helps us to understand the Old Testament. I'm saying New and Old Testament. I'm saying these are what they're called, the so-called New Testament, the apostolic writings. So if we go over to Acts, let's see here. If we go over to Acts, chapter 2, let me pull that up. Here. Acts chapter 2. Okay, Acts chapter 2. Read for us. Just start reading on verse 1 right there, nice and loud.
And when the day of the festival of Shavuot had come, they were all with one mind in one place. And suddenly there came a sound from the heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting.
Okay, stop right there. So this right here, let me just say what this is over here. This right here, of course, is the giving of the Ruach HaKodesh. This is the giving of the Spirit to the believers in Yeshua, right? The pouring out of the Spirit, right? And so when we think about the pouring out of the Spirit, okay, the place where the mainstream Christian church gets this thing wrong at is when they think about the Spirit being poured out. They think about all of these things. They think about speaking in tongues. They think about prophesizing. They think about healing and words of knowledge and wisdom and miracles and all these things. And all of these things are manifestations of the Spirit, right? But we have to understand what the main purpose of the Spirit was, and it wasn't all of those things. If we go back now, we can understand what the purpose of the Spirit being poured out is. Okay, so we go over here to here, and go ahead and start reading. Let's see, right here, 31. Just start reading right there.
See, the days are coming, declares Yahweh, when I shall make a renewed covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Yehudah. Not like the covenant I made with their fathers in the day when I strengthened their hand to bring them out of the land of Mitzrayim. My covenant which they broke, though I was a husband to them, declares Yahweh.
Okay, keep on going.
For this is the covenant I shall make with the house of Israel after those days, declares Yahweh. I shall put my Torah in their inward parts, and write it on their hearts, and I shall be their Elohim.
Okay, very good. He said with this new covenant, he's going to put his Torah in their inward parts. He's going to put their Torah on their inward parts. Okay, let's see here. Ezekiel 36. This is all stuff that we should have in our, in our spiritual Rolodex is ready to go when people were talking about the new covenant, right? Ezekiel 36:25. What's that say right there?
25.
36:25.
And I shall sprinkle clean water on you, and you shall be clean from all your filthiness, and from all your idols I cleanse you.
Okay, stop right there. So we're going to remember this part right here. He's going to do this other thing in verse 25, but the first thing he's going to do is going to wash you. Okay, keep on going.
And I shall give you a new heart, and put a new spirit within you. And I shall take the heart of a stone out of your flesh, and I shall give you a heart of flesh.
27.
And put my spirit within you, and I shall cause you to walk in my laws and guard my right rulings, and shall do them.
Okay, very good. So when we think about the Most High pouring out His Spirit, it includes this over here, this spiritual heart transplant that He's giving you. The spiritual heart transplant, you're gonna take out that stony heart, that hard heart. You're gonna take that out, and you're gonna replace it with a stone of flesh, the one that's pliable, the one that He's able to sit up there and caress. Hold on, let me put my little. Hold on. He gonna take that other one. Now I wanted to be able to do this, right? He gonna take your heart, and He gonna have it in His hands like this, and He gonna be just holding that thing, caressing it and molding it, right? Because it's going to be a flesh, not that hard one, right? So that spirit that He pours out is going to be His law in your heart. His law in your heart. The spirit within you is the law in your heart, and it's going to cause you to walk in my laws and guard my judgments and do them. That's what the spirit that He's want. Anytime He talk about pouring out His spirit, this is what is connected to, right? The giving of the law. And so from a prophetic standpoint, it bears witness to the fact that there's a connection between the giving of the law and the giving of the spirit. Right, there's a connection there. We know that the giving of the spirit was on Shavuot, and so again, we look back at the text. We know that it's a possibility and a probability that we're able to look and see where it's absolutely possible, and it makes absolute prophetic sense that the giving of the Mosaic law, the written law, was given on Shavuot, even though the scriptures don't explicitly tell us that. But when we see in the New Testament, which again is a revealing of those hidden things from the Old Testament, is a manifestation of all of the prophetic utterances of the Old Testament. It shows you the connection between the two, right? Instead of having the Shavuot with the pouring out of the Spirit be this thing that's just not connected to anything, we know that the so-called New Testament is a fulfillment of the scriptures. And so when we look and we see, what is it the fulfillment of? What can it be connected to? Right? It's connected to the thing that is fulfilling, right? The spirit in you is put in you so that you're able to walk in His commandments. And so again, when we look back and look and see from a logistic standpoint, it's totally not outside of the realm of possibility to see that the giving of the commands at Mount Sinai was on Shavuot, right? And this is something that traditionally is understood from a traditional standpoint, but I'm saying that we're able to look and see in the scripture that it's something that's totally possible. right? And so, so let's keep on going over here. We want to keep on looking at these things over here and see. The next thing that we see over here, let's see. We want to look at. Okay, we're going to go back to our verses over in Exodus. Exodus chapter 19. We'll go back to there. And we want to deal with, let me see what it talks about in verse 3. Okay, right. So we read this over here. 3. Moshe went up to the mountain. This is what you say to the people. You seen what I did, right? Now, if you diligently obey my voice and guard my covenant, the covenant that he's about to give you, the people, then you shall be my treasured possession, my favorite jewel, right? That treasured possession, my favorite treasure is what you're going to be above all the people. The whole earth is mine, he said. Everybody's mine, the Moses said. All the earth is mine, but Israel, if you diligently obey my voice and guard, keep, protect my covenant, then you'll be this treasured people, right? And then it says, and you shall be a kingdom, a reign, a kingdom of priests, and a set apart nation, right? And so this is something that we have to understand as the people of the Most High, is that he has for us to be this forever, right? A kingdom of priests and a set apart nation, right? And so when we think about what that means, what do it mean? Like inside of Israel, of course, we have priests and things set up to be those ones who are the ones who bring the Torah to transmit that understanding of those things that pertain unto the Most High to the people, right? But he's saying that as a nation, Israel is supposed to be that to the other nations, right? And so Israel, as this set apart nation, we have to remember that we have to be as Messiah talked about in terms of being a light to the world, right? And the salt of the earth, right? It's easy for Black people to understand what salt do. Salt brings out the goodness, right? If you got something that and you ain't putting no salt on it, you know what I mean? That stuff it's just bland, right? It's just it don't got no flavor, right? And we're the salt of the earth, right? The whole earth, right? So we bringing out the goodness, right? But when we talk about the goodness is the Most High, right? And so we bringing out the goodness in the nations, right? We're shining a light in this place of darkness, right? And so the Most High over here, when he's beginning to make his covenant with his people, he's saying, I'm giving you this covenant. I'm giving you these commands, these law, statutes, commands, and judgments that I want you to deal with, right? Not for nothing, though, right? It's a thing that's setting you apart, and it's a thing that's causing you to actually walk out the character of the Most High, right? We understand that the laws of the Most High is the character of the Almighty. Right here. This is something right here. Let me put this on her right now because this is something that I say right here. I say this, right? This came from over here, right here.
This is a Direct Accord exclusive.
Okay, right. So the Torah, is the commandments. I mean, it's the character of the Most High humanized. It's the character of the Most High humanized, right? And so when we walk out these commandments, it's giving you're manifesting the character of the Almighty. And so we see the importance of that in verse 5, where he's saying, I want you to do this stuff so that you can be this peculiar people, so that you can be this treasured possession above all the other peoples, so that you can be a priest to them, because you're going to be carrying out the character of the Most High to those nations. That's how you're going to be doing. So it's an intricate part. It's an intricate connection between the law and the people and the nations, right? Because it's necessary for the people to walk out, the people Israel, the Most High's people, to walk out His law, statutes, and commands, so that they can show the nations the character of the Most High. Right? Because we can look out here and see the nations don't know nothing about the character of the Most High. Right? They out here doing all types of just gross iniquity. Right? And that's easy to see. Okay, so we have to remember that, right? That's part of our identity. Part of our identity is walking out these laws, statutes, and commandments. Because we could look right over here, right? If you obey my voice and guard my covenant, then you'll be the treasured possession. It makes us who we are. If we not walking out the Most High's character, how could we be His treasured possession? You can't. He said if right there. If you do it. If you ain't doing it, then what is you doing? You're not being this, right? You're not guarding, you're not diligently obeying, and you're not guarding the covenant. So therefore, how you going to be this treasured possession? You know, many people want to be the treasured possession, but they don't want to do this stuff over here. They don't want to guard the covenant, and they don't want to diligently obey. Obey. They'll probably say obey. Right? When you see this diligently in the Hebrew, it probably say obey. It probably doubles up right there. So He don't even just want you just to obey regular style. He wants you to obey. Okay, so you got to obey and guard the covenant, and that's how you be the treasured possession. Not because your daddy was, not because your daddy was it, right? But because your daddy taught you and then you did it, makes you that, right? It don't do my son no good for me just to know about the Most High, and then He don't ever know about it. It don't matter that He came out of me if He's not shown the ways, right? So at some point it's about the doing, right? Okay, but we want to keep on going because we got a lot to go through, right? So if we go down now. Let's see here. If we go down to verse 12, look at this. If we go down to verse 12, read verse 12 for us one more time.
And you shall make a border for the people all around, saying, take heed to yourselves that you do not go up to the mountain or touch the border of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall certainly be put to death. Okay, very good. So what we want to see over here, what we want to take notice of over here is that in these beginning processes over here, there was a thing that happened, right? There was some preliminary measures
that took place before the people was able to go and hear from the Most High. He said, the way you are right now, don't come up here to come past this little section over here. You're not ready for that yet. There's something you got to do before you're able to get to this next situation over here. And what we want to think about is the fact that when we think about again, I always make these comparisons to the mainstream Christianity and this whole phrase as come as you are. That only really works to a certain extent, this whole idea of come as you are. Right? Because if you come as you are, the caveat really is that you have to have a particular mindset moving forward. And if you don't have that particular mindset moving forward, it don't really jive with this whole situation. Right? And we're going to get into some things right over here, right here. I'm going to hit you with another one.
This is a Direct Akkad exclusive.
Okay, we hitting you with this other one, right? Because when we understand the feast days, we understand that they give us a total picture of the plan of salvation. They give us a total picture of the plan of salvation, right? And so let's think about where Israel is at this point in time over here in Exodus 19 and 12. Okay, so when we look over here, we understand that they had the Passover, right? They had the Passover, they had the lamb. They killed the lamb. They put the blood on the doorposts, right? They had the Feast of Unleavened Bread. They had that already, right? At this point right over here. So what do that mean? What do that mean if we think about it in terms of where it fits in the total plan of salvation, right? How do it match up, right? Well, when we think about Passover, is synonymous with redemption, right? Redemption happened at Passover, right? You had that change of ownership that happened at Passover, right? And so again, we're looking at Israel in the state that they're at over here in Exodus 19 and 12. They had Passover, they had that redemption, they had that change of ownership. They had that initial act of obedience. They had that initial act of obedience. The Most High said, take the lamb, kill it. Wait, first of all, take it, hold it for a few days, kill it, slaughter it, hold the blood, put the blood on your doorposts, eat the lamb, right? And all the instructions that went with it, right? And then whenever you do that, the death angel going to pass over you, right? And so they had that initial act of obedience. But if we fast forward a little bit, we still haven't got to the point of being the covenant people, because we just read over here, if you do my commandments, if you diligently, what verse was that? If you, go back up here, verse 5, he's saying now, if you diligently obey my voice and guard my covenant, then you'll be my treasured people. And he didn't even give them the commandments yet. So he didn't make the covenant yet with the people. But But if we again think back, you already had Passover. You already had that Feast of Unleavened Bread. You already had that change of ownership. You already had that initial act of obedience with the killing and slaughtering of the lamb already. You already had the removal of sin in the context of a cycle. Hold on, I'm giving it to you again. I'm giving you all of these. I'm giving you all these exclusives, right? I'm giving them to you, right? He's giving you with the Feast of Unleavened Bread the removal of sin in the context of a cycle, which is 7 days, right? And so you're doing this practice. You're rehearsing this practice of removing sin from your life and keeping it out with the Feast of Unleavened Bread. But still, the destination has not been reached. Still, they're at the place when we look in Exodus chapter 19 and where we are. What was that, verse 12 we read up to? Let me go back. Still, if we go up to verse 12, they still haven't reached the destination. They haven't reached the destination, and they haven't signed no papers. They haven't made no covenant with the Most High yet. Right? He didn't even give them the law that he wants them to keep so that they could be a peculiar people. He didn't even give it to them yet. They just got one law so far. That's included in this thing that he's about to speak. Right, and so he then solidify the covenant with the people, but he had all of these preliminary steps that happened beforehand. Okay, and so again, when we think about the feast days, they help us to understand what the Most High is doing with his plan of salvation and how it works in real life for us, right? And so again, back to this idea of what's going on. People at the foot of the mountain, you done did all of this stuff to even get to the foot of the mountain, right? You did all of the, hold on, be careful with that. We did all this stuff to get to the foot of the mountain in the first place, but you still haven't sealed the deal. And so we got to think about this in terms of our situation. We're making these different preparations in order to join ourselves to the Most High. There's certain things that we're doing to ready ourselves to even be in covenant relationship with him. And so again, back to this thought process, if we're thinking about this idea of come as you are, is only good to a certain extent, because once I get there, I got to come to some realizations is that I'm going to be doing these things different from now on. There's going to have to be some things that I'm doing in a different way than the way that I've been doing it. I might have been doing all types of things before, but when I get to that place of saying that I'm going to follow after you, I got to say in my mind that I'm about to be doing some different things, and I'm gonna have to figure out and have it in my mind that as I begin to understand what these things are, that I'm just going to do the things. And so we could think about it. You could even say this thing, come as you are, right? But if in your mind, you're not thinking about from this point forward what I got to do in order to make a change, then you're not thinking about this thing correctly. because the example that we have over here is they got there to a point, and like I said, they already did all types of things to get ready. They already had Passover. They already had Feast of Unleavened Bread. They went through this cycle of the removal of sin. They went through this idea of renouncing their old master and pledging allegiance to a new one. Already, they did that already, but they still haven't sealed the deal. Not yet. And the Most High told Moses, you keep them people outside the border. They're not ready yet. They already chose them. They already chose the Most High. They did it already, but they're not ready yet. You tell them down there, them men, wash themselves, wash their clothes, sanctify themselves 3 days. Stay away from their wives 3 days. Don't get unclean 3 days. And then we're gonna meet after that. And again, this is after they've already done all of these things. All of these different acts of obediences already. And so when we look at there's preparation that goes into this whole thing of living in this life. You already in your mind said what they said. Whatever you say, we'll do. You got to get to that place where they didn't even know what he was going to say. But they said, whatever, we got to get to the place when you come in the door, what Israel did over here. Whatever you say, I'm going to do it. That's the mind frame. If you're going to say come as you are, you come as you are is that with a particular mind frame of whatever you say, I'm going to do it. And that's knowing that you in for some transition in your life, right? You're looking forward to some change, not the same old you. And so we can see this over here with what Israel is going through over here, right? Because they had this time of sanctification that was a necessary ingredient to them even getting in the door to sign the paperwork, to get to seal the deal of the covenant. They couldn't even hear the words of the covenant before they had this time of sanctification. They couldn't even hear what it was that they was agreeing to do before they had to sanctify themselves for 3 days. And so it's a mindset. It's getting your mind ready for change unto holiness. And so I think people ain't on that, right? They just on, this, I'm Israel and and that's it. But we saw that this people did all types of things beforehand and still wasn't ready for the covenant. They still wasn't ready. And so we have to approach this thing in that same way, right? We have to go into this thing the same exact way as Israel did. Okay, let's look down a little further over there and see what we can see. What else happened over here? Let's see here. Okay, again, so we see how, again, the connection between the giving of the commands and the giving of the Spirit, we see that there's this kind of miraculous goings on that happens over here, where it said the whole mountain was there was smoke and fire, right? They heard the trumpet sound, and it was just sounding off, right? The voice of the Most High was coming down, and right. So again, we see over here this connection between the giving of the commands at Sinai and Shavuot, the pouring out of the Spirit. So when we look over into the next chapter over here and actually look at the commands and having that understanding, again, the idea of the feast days helping us to understand the commandments, understanding that the laws, statutes, and commandments in us is causing us to walk in a particular way, right? The laws, statutes, and commandments in us is causing us to walk in a particular way. And so that's another thing that that we're able to actually see when we look at our people, right? They should really be walking around looking like the example that Yeshua gives to us, not looking like the world. Right? Holiness, set apartness unto the Most High looks a certain way. Right? And so it's not like this secret connection that we have with the Almighty. Right? Yeshua said, if you deny me among men, my Father's going to deny you in heaven. And so an easy way to deny the Messiah among men is to walk around her looking like the world, to go around her talking like the people in the world talk, to go around her being with these people in the world and being something other than a light to them. Because you can't just say being with people of the world, because they would sit up there and look at Yeshua and like, look, he's this wine bibber. He sit up there and hang around with all these people that's over here, lepers and always popping bottles and so forth.
Right.
But he was a light to those people.
Right.
That's what the accusers didn't never understand. That he was over there giving them life-changing things and adding to their situation, not just being part of them.
He was an influencer. He wasn't being influenced.
Exactly. He was the epitome of an influencer, right? And so,
you imagine today, you should have an Instagram. He's like, I'm an influencer, a holy influencer. Like, that's the real influencer.
Yeah. He would have all kinds of followers, right? He would be one of them ones who you look on his thing. He got a whole bunch of followers, but he ain't following nobody. You go on people's things and be like, follow me and I'll follow you back.
Right, yeah.
He ain't following nobody back. He got zero. He ain't following zero people, but he got a whole bunch of followers though.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. But so I'm saying all that just to say that, again, Israel is a kingdom of priests, right? So as far as the nations go, we can't be out here following the nations. The nations got to be following you as you follow after Yeshua, as you follow after the law that's in your heart that you walking by. But that first step, right? We over here at this first step is that setting yourself apart, having it in your mind first before you even do commandment the first, that whatever it is that you say, Most High, I'm going to do it. You got an attitude of change in your mind already. You don't even know what his laws, statutes, and commands is, but you know when you hear them, you're going to do them. And it's not going to be grievous unto you. You're going to love doing it because you're going to know that doing it is causing for your Father to look down and smile on you. Okay. All right. So let's go over here. Let's go to the next chapter. Pull this up here. Go to the next chapter. And we're just going to read, let's see. We're going to read to 21. I said verse 20, but we're going to read down to 21.
Elohim spoke all these words, saying, I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mizraim, out of the house of slavery. You have no other mighty ones against my face. You do not make yourself a carved image or any likeness of that which is in the heavens above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahweh Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the crookedness of the fathers on the children of the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing loving commitment to thousands, to those who love me and guard my commands. You do not bring the name of Yahweh your Elohim to naught, for Yahweh does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to naught. Remember the Sabbath day to set it apart. 6 days you labor and shall do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of your Yahweh your Elohim. You do not do any work, you nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart. Respect your father and your mother, so that your days are prolonged upon the soil which Yahweh Elohim is giving you. You do not murder, you do not commit adultery, you do not steal, you do not bear false witness against your neighbor, you do not cover your neighbor's house, and you do not cover your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor. And all the people saw the thunders, the lightning flashes, the voice of the shofar, and the mountain smoking. And the people saw it, and they trembled and stood at a distance, and said to Moshe, you speak with us, and we hear, but let not Elohim speak with us, lest we die. And Moshe said to the people, do not fear, for Elohim has come to prove you, in order that his fear be before you, so that you do not sin. So the people stood at a distance, but Moshe drew near the thick darkness where Elohim was.
Okay, very good. All right. So let's actually start right there on verse 20, where it says, do not fear, for Elohim has come to prove you, and in order that his fear be before you, so that you do not sin. And so that right there is very important, because when we look at, again, he said, in order that his fear be before you, so you do not sin. Right? He's giving you the commandments. Sin is the transgression of the commandments. And so he's giving it to you in such a way that he wants for that fear to be there, but not for nothing, but so that you do what he's saying for you to do. Right? That let that fear be there. And you know, if you don't do it, something bad gonna happen to you. Right. But if you do it, you're good.
It's like saying I'm serious. It's like I'm serious.
Yeah,
this is serious.
This ain't no game.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a game.
Because people tend to hear you, but it's not serious. You know,
no,
it's like not. You know, I hear you.
Mm-hmm. But do you hear me?
Right.
These people out here ain't really hearing you. Like, yeah, the Most High, like, this is real. Like, this is serious. This is a serious thing. But it's not a problem if you're doing the things.
Right.
You're good. Don't fear to the point where you don't even want to be a part. Because the only reason why you should fear is if you're on the wrong side of it.
Right.
If you're on the right side, you got nothing to fear. But that takes us back to the beginning, though. That takes us back to the beginning if we go back. Because, you know, when I look at the commandments, you know, there's different ways that people sit up here and count these different ones. But I kind of look in kind of the Hebraic, the traditional Hebraic thought process. That the first thing that you got to do in terms of these 10 commandments, the first thing you got to do is know who he is. You look at verses 1 and 2 when he spoke, essentially verse 2. The first thing he's doing is he's saying, I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You got to know that. You got to know who the Most High is. Again, what we was just at over there in 21 in terms of dealing with that fear. Right? In Proverbs, it tells us the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge. It's the beginning of wisdom. We can't even get to the place where we're able to walk anything out that he said before we're able to understand who he is. If we can't understand who he is, it don't cause us to even get to the idea of not having any gods before him, because we not even dealing with who he is properly. The first thing we got to do is know Yahweh. Then we're able to put him first. Right? Then we're able to we're able to not do these other things over here that he's asking for us after the fact. But the first thing we got to do is know him. Because if we don't know him, I think what happens is people don't know him. And then they get in here and start trying to deal with these laws, statutes, and commands, with these other things that he's requiring of you. And then they not taking it serious. Because they never got to that place of knowing him. They may know of him, but they don't know him. Right? Even like how Yeshua talks to them people, where it's the exact same thing. It's not even like how he said, it's the exact same thing. How Yeshua talked to them people where they was doing all kinds of things that was connected to the body of Messiah. All types of things in Yeshua's name. But he said, I never knew you. You didn't never have no real relationship with me. You worker of iniquity. He never knew you. He never had that bonded relationship with you. Because when you have that, when you have that, that's the foundation. It keeps you from these other things. That's the first thing you got to do is know the Most High. You got to know him first. You got to understand that he's that one. He's that one that brought you out of the land of Egypt. That's him. You know that one that brought us up out of Egypt is him. That one. The one who did all the miracles in order to get the people right over there where they was at. Him. That's the one. And if you don't have that, just that basic understanding, then you walking around, you in doubt. Is he really Elohim? Is he really able to save? Is he really able to make me into something else? Right? The only way you could even say that is if you don't know him. The only way you get over that hump is to know. And so that's the first thing. That's number one right there. Knowing the Most High. Understanding who he is. Understanding what he would do and what he would not do. That's another thing. People don't understand what the Most High would do and what he would not do. And that's why they out here, doing all of these different kinds of things where they acting like they exemplifying the Most High, but in all actuality, that's not what they doing. Right? They not exemplifying him. They exemplifying somebody else. Right? They not walking in his character. They actually walking in their own character. Right? But you gotta know him first. Right? So that's what you dealing with first things first. That's what he told the people. Right? And so when we look over here and we look at this, it's interesting that we look and see at the first half of the commands, all even just mention the Most High's name. Right? They're all connected to the Most High. Right? He says his name in these other commands. Yeah. Right? And so we're able to see literally that he's showing you how he wants for you to deal with him. And then you see where in the second half of the commands where he don't have his name is where he's giving you these commands on how to deal with each other and how to deal with man. Right? And that kind of brings out the idea that that Yeshua brought out in terms of the greatest command, loving the Most High with your whole being. And then loving your neighbor as yourself. And on these two laws, the whole law hangs. Same thing. Somebody said over here, you may know of him, but not know him. Right? That's true. That's a true statement, right? You could know of somebody, but you don't really know him like that. Right? But the Most High wants you to literally know him, to have that intimacy with him. And again, that's the only way you even get to these other situations, like the second command, which is idolatry.
So you gotta have a relationship.
You gotta know who he is. Intimacy, right? Not just knowing of him. And again, it was important with Israel over there for him to have that connection. Again, he made the connection with him, right? He got this thing forever with Israel, with his people. And this is how he sets it off. In verse 2, I am Yahweh, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. But that's saying a lot right there, because a lot happened over there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. All kinds of things happened over there. But again, like we were saying, that just got the ball rolling. He did all that just so they could know who he was, really, because they sealing the deal right now.
Yeah.
He didn't have to even make a covenant with them at that point.
Yeah.
He just had them in mind. This is the one who it's going to be. And then when we get over here, then we're going to seal the deal. But they just now doing it right over here. But they had all that experience beforehand, getting to know him. And this is a part I think that we can't really skip over this part. We just jump right in, and then now we seal. But we didn't never have that learning part where we learn to know who the Most High is. Okay, so let's look at the second command. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall have no other mighty ones against my face. Okay, and so it seems like it's something that's kind of just cut and dry. In terms of idols, but we don't really think about the weight that we put on things, and really understanding how we treat in these things. And again, it all goes back to the fear of Elohim, because it's so easy to put put that fear, to misplace that fear and put it in something else, where and in you doing that is taken away from the Most High. And so we can think about these things that's going on, right? If we are able to have an understanding and know that the Most High is for us and not against us, then it causes you to be able to walk around like how our King David did.
Yeah.
Right, where he was indeed a man of war. David was, right? But why? Because he had faith in the Most High. He didn't look at these things that came around and fear those things more than he did the Most High. So we can be out here making idols of things and putting these other mighty ones against the face of the Most High. And we do this all the time. When we was just talking to my son yesterday about potential life in college, away from home, and friends saying, "Hey man, come on out here and let's go to this party real quick." You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have a good time over there. And then he might at first say, "Nah, I'm gonna chill," because he got in the back of his mind, whether it be his natural dad or his spiritual dad, in the back of his mind, like, you shouldn't be doing that. Right? But with some persistence from the friends, it's real easy for you to be like, all right, let me just go there and see what y'all doing over here. Let me just hit that thing over there you got. Here, just pass that one time. Take a little, here, let me just sip on that little, drink a little bit and see what. And let me just see what them girls are doing in that back room over there real quick. All of a sudden now, you done just got sucked in. And then what happened? All of those things, all of those pleasures became bigger than the Most High. You just made an idol right there. You made idols out of your friends. You cared about how they was going to judge you more so than how the Most High was going to judge you. You made idols out of them. You made idols out of your own self because you put your physical needs and desires ahead of what you know the Most High got for you. So when you think about idolatry, really it's something that kind of touches all over the place. It's almost there almost ain't no other sin besides idolatry. It touches the other ones. That's what makes so true what James says over there in his book, that if you break one, you done broke them all. Because they're so interconnected. And this idea of making other mighty ones against the face of the Most High it is a serious thing, but it's easily done. We have to always remember to put the Most High first. And then so not only when we look at this in terms of having these kind of idols in terms of thoughts and ideas and things, but also when we talk about these idea of physically making images and worshiping them. When we think about people making an image of the white Jesus, right? That was the craziest thing they could have did. Because when you just think about Jesus, if I say Jesus right now, in your mind, you seen that blonde hair, blue-eyed picture. In your mind, you seen it. And so you got people all over the place where there's that connection that's ingrained in your mind between that name and that picture. And then not to mention all of the false doctrines and thought processes that they have also connected with that name and that picture.
Yeah.
And so now you really have like kind of you have a whole new religion that's formed around this particular face and this particular name. That's idolatry. It's idolatry. The Most High said, you're not supposed to make a picture of nothing that's on heaven or in earth and worship that thing. But we got this picture that we say it's not I don't know if they even say that they're not worshiping these statues that they make. They might, I don't know what they do. But if you're making a picture and saying that that's the Christ, then you just broke this right here, because you're saying the name, you have that image, you're worshiping that thing.
Mm-hmm.
It don't matter if it's the white one or the black one. If it's the black one, when you think about the Messiah, and maybe your whole life you had the black one with the locks. You seen that one?
Oh yeah.
Maybe that's the only one you ever had.
That, yeah, man. That's
be
one thing I can say about my family. We never had the white one. We definitely had the black one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either one is this right here. It's this verse 4. Either one. And so, he's not making no differences over here. He said, you shall not make for yourself an idol of or an idol or any likeness of what is in heaven above. And so that's a violation over there. And so we don't want the black one. We definitely don't want the white one. We don't want anyone, because anyone that you making is verse 4 right over here. because them things is happening in your subconscious mind. That's where your mind is gonna go to, because you done already ingrained it in there, and you should have never had one to begin with, right? Not to mention, again, when we think about all in terms of the what has happened with mainstream Christianity, all of the things that they sat up here and did and made, and that goes along with it, right? And so idolatry is, is one of those, again, it's one of these things that's like, it's like a the spider web that goes out, and it's got all of these things that touch all over the place. Okay, he's saying don't bow down, don't prostrate yourself. Okay, so again, all these things that we could think of you physically doing is also things that we could think of you doing from a spiritual perspective. So when we think about where it tells you not to bow down or to serve it. Here, let's look at this real quick. It tells you not to bow down or serve it. So let's see here. Let's pull this up here. Okay, it tells you don't bow down. That's verse 5. Don't bow thyself. That's shakar. Let's see here. Make this a little bit. Shakar. To depress, to prostrate, bow self down, crouch, fall down. Okay, all of these things, obeisance, worship, stoop. And again, from a physical standpoint, you could think about it easily from a physical standpoint, but also, again, when we think about from like a mental, kind of a spiritual standpoint, again, we gave us examples of kind of giving in to the pressures of things that's around you, right? You're able to stand tall, right, to these outside influences, for so long. And then after a while, you become lower and lower until those influences now, as we said before, you go from being a potential influencer to being influenced, right? Where their thoughts and ideas are over you now, and you're kind of bringing yourself in submission to those thoughts and ideas that are coming from the outside, to the place where you are becoming subservient and serving these other things that are contrary to the Most High, right? In bondage, out here doing things that you ain't supposed to be doing, but you got yourself in a situation where you can't even stop doing it. That's bondage, right? But we can't be in a situation where we're doing things that's against our will, unless we talking about something that's against our physical will that we're doing for the Ruach's sake. When we look at the apostles, they called themselves bond servants to Messiah, bondsmen to Messiah, where Yeshua is their master, right? So we can't give our service to nobody or no thing that's going to pull us away from Messiah being our master, being our the one who we serve, right? And all that's wrapped up in this idolatry,
Yeah.
right? So it goes further than just forming images, which is something that's also very important, forming these images. But it's not always about forming images. Again, it could be people, it could be thoughts, it could be ideas that we give into. Okay, so let's keep on going here. This next one. Oh, I wanted to do this one here. What is this here? Idol. Idol. I wanted to, before we go to the next one, I want to look at this word here. This is, let's see. Where do we have the word? This here. That says pasel, or idol carved image. I want to look at this one here. So let me get out my little whiteboard here. I'm going to look at this pasel, which is a pay and a samek and a lamed. So if we was to look at this word here, which is an idol, which is that thing which you would end up worshiping, which again, it could either be a thing or just thoughts and ideas that you're choosing, right? We have the pay, which is the mouth, right? So you have this opening. You have this opening over here, which is the mouth, the things that go in and out of this open mouth. You have this opening, and then the samek is this thorns. So you have this opening that leads the lamed that leads to thorns, right? This opening that leads to thorns. You want to go out this thing, and then when you go out the thing, it leads you to these things that surround you with these prickly thorns, right? That's what an idol does. It's this thing that when you begin to be led to that thing, it can only lead you to death and sin, right? Okay, I just want to look at that real quick. All right, so let's look at the next one, verse 7, which is it says to take the name of Yahweh in vain. Or this translation says, you do not bring the name of Yahweh your Elohim to naught. For Yahweh does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to naught. And so here, let's see here, this word vain. This word vain is shav. Let's see here. sense of desolating, destruction, ruin, guile, uselessness, deceptive, false, lying, vain, vanity. Um, I'm not, people have said, they look at this and they talk about the people who began to not use the name of the Most High because they didn't want to bring it to use it in vain or for it to be used in vain. I've never been a proponent of that. We look throughout the Psalms where it talks about declaring the name of the Most High or publishing his name, or his name being a strong tower and the righteous run into it. His name is always something that should be published and established and shown and known. When I look at this, thinking about the idea of bringing it to naught, I think about it in the idea of, people, kind of what we was speaking about a little earlier, that not, the Most High's name, that's his brand. Right? Let's talk about it in the terms that we think about now. That's his brand, his name, the Most High. That's his brand. Yeah. Right? And so there should be certain things that's connected to that brand and certain things that's not.
Right.
When we sit up here and we look at these people out here, soon as somebody has some controversy, all of his what they call it, all of his sponsors or whatever, the people, the advertisers, people be dropping people whenever, because they bring in their name down.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I'm a celebrity and I'm backed by like, these tennis shoes and pop brands, and then I get into some controversy to keep their brand at a certain level, they're going to distance themselves from me because I'm bringing them down, because they don't want to associate themselves with me anymore. Mm-hmm. And so when I look at this command over here, this is how I think about this command, where if we out here, as the scripture talks about, as being ambassadors for Messiah, right? If we're his ambassadors, we're the ones that he has delegated us a certain amount of authority to go out and represent him. If we out here represent him any old way, we're bringing his name to nothingness.
Right.
When we doing that, right?
Right.
If I'm supposed to be so if I'm setting the example that I could sit up here and do X, Y, and Z as a ambassador of a Messiah, then that's going to let a certain amount of people know, hey, he's doing X, Y, Z, and he follows after Messiah. So I should be able to do X, Y, Z too, because he's doing it.
Right.
And we bringing that brand down. And that's this command right over here. That's this third command.
Mm.
We bringing his name to nothingness. Where he went and said, I'm set apart, so you be set apart. But we out here with this false watered down version, and we got people following the watered down version. Meanwhile, he's full strength over there. No ice cubes.
Mm-mm.
Right?
Straight up.
Straight up.
Top shelf.
Yeah. And we over here, we bottom shelf with one of them big ice balls in it. The cup is full up, but it's mostly ice. We bring his name to nothingness. And this is one of his commands over here. He said, for Yahweh does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to naught. And so, for me, it makes me want to be careful about what I'm out here doing. Because I don't want somebody to look at me and say, well, he's supposed to be this person who's supposed to be walking in the path, and he's doing X, Y, and Z. I should be able to do it too then. I don't want to be that one over there, because Most High, he said over here, he's not going to leave me unpunished for doing that. I'm not trying to get that punishment. I don't want that. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
And so, his people, we as his people, we got to be careful out here. And this is, again, this is the same thing we already said. We're supposed to be lights to the world. So if being a light to the world is being that ambassador of the Most High, is keeping his name in a particular light and not bringing it down, that's where we need to be at. Sometimes I find myself not doing things that I know is lawful just so that I don't make somebody else do something that I have control of myself over, but they don't got control over themselves. So I'm just going to refrain altogether not to bring somebody else down. Yeah. I know that I can have a beer and I'm not in sin for drinking a beer. I know that's not a sin. I know that I could have some wine and I'm not in sin for drinking wine. But there's a whole bunch of people you will never see me drinking around with or none of that. Because I know that I'm able just to have a 2 glasses of wine and say, well, except the Passover, I have 4 glasses. Right? But I know where my limits are, and I know when to stop. I absolutely know. I know I can't have more than 2 beers. That's it for me. I have to be done. But everybody don't have that in them, right? And to be at that place of being that drunkard is where we don't want to get to, right? It talk about bringing out the strong drink for the feast, right? But the excess is where you getting into those murky waters. And so again, with this command in mind, I refrain from things that I know is lawful just for the sake of I don't want somebody else to get tripped up looking at me, and where they might not necessarily have the ability to not take it to that next level. Because I don't want to cause the Most High's name to be brought to nothing. I don't want for his standards that I know are high. I don't want to bring those standards down and have other people looking at me and putting themselves at this level that I'm putting out there, when the level should be somewhere up here somewhere, and I'm way down here, right? I need to be trying always to be to go over and above for the people who's looking purposes.
Right. But you're being over righteous, bro.
I gotta be though.
That's what I'm just saying.
That's what they gonna say.
You being over righteous, man. You get
That's what they gonna say.
No, man,
but I'd rather hear that than hear this punishment that's coming from me.
Exactly.
I'll take that.
Exactly.
Whatever you want to
That's
say.
a compliment, right?
Thank you very much.
Right.
All praises.
Right.
I'll take that every time. Because what I don't want is whatever that punishment is that's coming for me bringing his brand down.
Right.
I want his brand to have nothing but shine on it. And that's the only way I want to represent him, because that's what he's telling me over here. Don't bring his name to nothingness. And like I said, people out here bringing his name to nothingness, but they didn't never know him to begin with.
Yeah.
And so you got all of these things happening because they never get to that place of knowing him to begin with.
They deceiving themselves.
They deceiving themselves, and they deceiving the people that's looking at them too.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep on going down here. Let's see what's next. The Shabbat. Remember the Sabbath day. We talked about the Sabbath last week, right? Remember, or the week before that. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Right? Let's look at I want to look at this word zakar. Here, let's look at this here.
But to remember.
To remember. So this is interesting here. We look at this. We got this up here. Zakar, which means to mark so as to be recognized. That is to remember, to mention, record, remember, bring, call, or keep in remembrance, so on and so forth, right? And so I want to look at this in the ancient, because it gives us an interesting picture here. Zakar, and let me erase. So we have the, not that too big. And the Resh. So we have the Zain. This is like a little plowing thing. And then the Kaf, which is the hand, the open hand, and the man's head. So we look at this design. Hold on, let me put this over here. The Kaf and the Resh. So this thing here is this plowing thing. There's like a plowing thing that plows or cuts. It cuts through the field, right? So you have this cutting thing, and then you have the open hand of the man, right? So you have this cutting thing in the hand of the man. So it's this cut that's made into the hand of the man. It's interesting. I have this thing. You can't see it on the camera probably. I have this burn on my hand. that happened probably 25 years ago. I know exactly when this cut on the hand of this man happened, right? I can probably tell you all of the scars that I have on my hands. Each one of them has a story that goes along with it. I guess over time, since I do have quite a few, some of the stories might get interchanged. But when I look at these cuts on my hand of the man, which is me, it causes me to remember a thing. Right? It's a mark that I have that signifies a thing. Right? And so the Most High wants us to remember the Shabbat, right? To always have that mark of the Shabbat, right? That thing that causes us to remember to keep it holy, right? He don't want us to forget about it. He wants us to remember it and keep it, right? I don't want to go too much into it because we just dealt with the Shabbat, but we definitely have to, again, it's brought to our remembrance when we just look at this verse over here that he's telling you, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy, because in 6 days I created the heaven and earth and rested on the seventh. Creation. He takes us back to creation, right?
Yeah.
He's furthering the knowledge of him that we had. Oh, if it's not good enough for you that I rescued you from Egypt, oh yeah, I created everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So remember this time. I'm holy, you be holy. And all your people, have them to remember it too. Right? The Shabbat is something, it's interesting, again, when you think about mainstream Christianity, you can't, there's no way around this for mainstream Christianity, the Shabbat. It makes no sense to come up with this thing about the first day replacing the Shabbat. We're able to look in the scriptures and find, I think, 2 places in the New Testament where people gathered on the first day of the week. And there's literally hundreds of places where the Shabbat was observed. Looking at some of these, a couple of these books that I recently acquired, and understanding that, the followers of Yeshua that walked around, they look like the people that was going to the temples and the synagogues, the so-called Judaism. They look like those people. And then the further away you get from that in time, the more different the followers of Yeshua began to look. The further away the followers of Yeshua look like so-called Jews. And so when you think about this 4th commandment, the Shabbat, at bare minimum, if we had a mainstream Christianity that did whatever they do on Sunday, they got together and they kept the Shabbat, I'd have less of an argument to have against you. Right? Because at least you're still honoring the time that the Most High said to honor. But when you do away with that thing, like there's no way to biblically justify this idea of changing this thing, because the scriptures don't never talk about you doing it. And the scriptures don't never talk about this idea, this command ever going away. In fact, when we really understand what the Shabbat really signifies for us, it helps us to be able to signify eternal rest. The time when we don't gotta sit up here and work anymore. Period. It's an eternal rest. It's a time when we're eternally with the Most High. And so when we think about scriptures like what talks about at the end of Isaiah, where until, what do it say? Until heaven and earth pass away, you're going to have the Sabbath. And so until there's a new heaven and a new earth, Shabbat is right here. So Yeshua died, but we still got the same earth over here. There's the same heavens is there too. Right? And so it said, until that happens, you're going to have, that's what you're going to have. Let me just flip to it real quick. Let me go to the next one. What is that? 66 and 22. What that? Hold on. What did I say right there in 22?
Isaiah 66:22. For as the new heavens and the new earth that I make stand before me, declares Yahweh, so your seed and your name shall stand. And it shall be that from new moon to new moon and from Sabbath to Sabbath, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares Yahweh. And they shall go forth and look upon the corpses of men who have transgressed against me, for their worm shall not die, and their fire not be quenched, and they shall be repulsive to all flesh.
There's going to be a time in the new, in the coming of the Most High, in that millennial period, where it says up there and talks about, like what it says, right? All flesh will come to worship me. At the same time, as you looking around and seeing the armies of the defeated people that try to come against the Most High laying around, they dead bodies laying around, and you seeing them. But while that's happening, we still talking about the Shabbat, and we still talking about the new moons that happen over here. So if we talking about things that's happening in the time when Yeshua is back on the scene, how is we sitting up here talking about he did away with the thing? He said, just like for as the new heavens and the new earth that I make stand before me, just like that, you still gonna have the Sabbath and these new moons. And so when we think about these people who talk about the Sabbath as if it is a thing that was made to end, we don't have no things in terms of prophecies that talk about the ending of the Shabbat. And if we did have those types of things, it will only be in the fact that we've made it to a place where there's no more nights,
right?
Where all you have is Shabbat. So even when you think about it in that regard, it's not gone away. You just don't have anything but Shabbat.
Yeah.
So,
and they can't even get around that because some of them try to go to the New Testament, like in Romans. It said, "Do we make void?" No, was that Romans 3? Do we make void the law through faith? Yeah, I forbid. We supposed to establish the law. So even if it's gone, if it's like, oh, we don't got to do it. Even the New Testament say we're supposed to establish it, reestablish it, even if it was taken away or gone or wherever you at, it's not being remembered. You're supposed to go back and remember.
Right. Yeah. It's supposed to be that I mean, there's a mark between his people and him.
Right.
It's a mark that he is the creator of heaven and earth. He did it in 6 days. It's a mark that he delivered his people from Egypt. And then when we add Yeshua to the mix, we know that the Sabbath is, Yeshua is our Shabbat because he's able to give us that eternal rest. And that eternal rest that he's talking about is in eternity. And so you can't get around this thing. If you was going to say that there was a bare minimum that you're able to think about in terms of keeping commandments, I feel like this would be it. Because he literally spoke these things. We have these other commands, and these other commands, we could take all these other commands that we see in the scripture. We're able to take those at some point and put them somehow into one of these 10 commandments that we see over here. You could go find any one of the commandments and you could put them in a category of these 10 here somewhere.
Right. Exactly.
And that's what Yeshua said. He said that. All the laws hang on these 2, which is another division of these 10. Loving the Most High, loving mankind. We know how to love the Most High by doing these things over here, by keeping the Sabbath, by not bringing his name to nothingness, by not causing there to be idols in his face, and to know who he is. And then when you even look at the 5th commandment, to respect your father and your mother, where there you have kind of the blend. You have the erev of the commandments, where it's part. You can look at it in terms of to your heavenly father and to your earthly father. Respect your father and your mother. Honor your father and your mother. Put weight on the things that come from your father and mother. And so again, we think about this from the idea of being the law, statutes, and commands that came down to Israel. It makes sense to honor your father and your mother so that your days may put it on your head. So that your days may prolong upon this land, because you have a father and mother that's going to show you the ways. Mm-hmm. Because that's part of being Israel, is being that priest to the nations and that set apart nation. So as that set apart nation, you're continuing the process by teaching your seed to grow up and be set apart nation. Right? And so there's weight. There's weight that comes with honor your father. Honor is that word chabad, which is that heaviness, that that we put on the words of our mother and father, who again are showing us the ways. Yeah. this don't work. This don't work for the heathens. Right? It don't work for the heathens because they walking in the ways. But part of our literal culture is to continue the what was given to us, continuing the ways of righteousness, which is part of what this is. Again, remembering the commandments is the character of Yahweh humanized. And so when we when we gain that character, when we begin to walk in that character, we also, part of that is passing that character on to the ones that's behind us, which is our children. Okay, we're gonna keep on going here. The next one we dealing with is murder. Murder, right? And so this word here, let me see this word here. This does something interesting in the ancient. I want to pull that up real quick. Okay, so this says Ratzach, which is to dash in pieces. That is killing human being, murder, put to death, kill, slay, murder. Right, and we definitely have to make a distinction. This is the scriptures version, which puts it as murder. We obviously know that there are wars and battles where you kill. And when we go further into the law, we understand that there's war is one thing, but to lay in wait and to kill somebody, to murder them, right, is a whole other thing. Judgment is one thing, right? So within the law, there's killing within the law. But judgment is not murder. Right? So if we look at this, I want to just do this real quick because there's also something that's interesting. If we look at this here, let's see here, which is a resh. It's a resh and a tzadi and a chet, which is a man's head. A man on his side, and a chet, which is a fence. And so if we look at this, in the ancient, we have, and so another way to look at this man on his side is because it's also the path and the destination, and it's also a man that's on his side for a hunt. If you think about a man in a prone position where he's aiming at something, he's crouching down, he's ready for the hunt. So you have the man that's on his side, right, ready for the hunt and what's he do, right? He's putting somebody on, he's making a distinction and putting somebody on the other side. The chet is that thing that is the fence that makes a distinction, right? So when you are when you look at this over here, right, the man on his side hunting to put someone on the other side. That's what you're doing when you murder somebody. You taking them and you putting them on the other side.
Other side isn't dead.
Yeah, the other side, the land of the living. It'll be no more. Right? And so the Most High talk against us trying to take men and put them on the other side. Right? And, unless you're dealing with, kind of some type of a self-defense situation, or you're dealing with some kind of war situation, right? We're not out here killing people, right? Because that's that's not, it's not our place to be doing that, right? If somebody's trying to preserve life, sometimes it becomes necessary to take a life.
Yep.
So like if the murder is like cold-blooded, that's not.
Well, if we just gonna say if it's murder. A murder's cold-blooded because that's what kind of makes it a murder. But if somebody come in here talking about he gonna kill everybody in here, and he gets killed while he's doing that, he didn't get murdered. He just got killed.
Yeah, got killed.
Now him coming in here killing somebody is murder.
Right.
He came in here with the intent to kill somebody.
Right.
Now what happens to that person after the fact, that's not murder.
Right.
He's just getting killed.
That's what he wanted.
Right? So there's a difference.
We're
right?
not supposed to kill nobody. But when you do kill somebody, well, the law go into accidental too.
Yeah.
But in your mind to say, I'm gonna go kill this person, that's murder.
Yeah.
But you can defend yourself.
Yeah. That's when you guilty. When you sit up here and you had the thought in your mind that that person over there, I'm going to put him on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
You're wrong for that.
Wrong.
Now, there's things in the law where if you accidentally kill somebody, then you actually can go, as far as the law is concerned, you can go to a place and stay there and not have to worry about anything happening to you. The law, the
Like refuge.
the land of refuge, the cities of refuge. And you're able to go to the cities of refuge and be there, and you'll be safe there.
That's accidentally though.
If you accidentally kill somebody. But now, if you go outside of the cities of refuge, that people's families able to come and kill you.
You don't want to get caught outside.
So and they wouldn't be murdering you. That would be justice.
Yep.
So there's a difference. So I'm saying that just to say there's killing in the Torah, but murders is out of bounds.
So killing and murder.
They're two different things. That's why this particular translation I like, because it's giving you it that way. Because this, the KJV is saying kill, where technically if you kill somebody, if you murdered someone, you killed them. But if you killed them, you didn't necessarily murder them.
Right.
So confusing.
Okay. All right. Let's keep on going. We don't want to be here too long. Okay. So adultery, right? Adultery. Now, when we talk about adultery, is an interesting thing over here, because even though adultery and idolatry kind of sound similar, they're different, but they're kind of the same. When you think about adultery, you have your connection that you have with your husband or with your wife, that bond that you create. When you go outside of that bond that you create between a husband and a wife, That's called adultery. Like unto idolatry towards the Most High. You know, we have a particular bond that we have with the Almighty. And when we go outside of that, that's called idolatry. And so again, we think about the idea that these commandments are broken in half and how we deal with the Most High and how we deal with each other. It's interesting that when we get down here to adultery, it's kind of that same kind of a thing that we think about with the betrayal that's involved with the Most High. We say that he's our Elohim. We say that he is the one and only one that we will worship and adore. And then we go outside of that, that's called idolatry. The same thing is true when we look at adultery. We have these individuals who we commit ourselves to, who we become bonded, and we say that I'm going to be for you, you're going to be for me, and nobody else. And then when that thing gets betrayed, that is what we call adultery.
So it's like a homonym.
A homonym? What do you mean? Because they sound
the same. And
they sound the same, and they're similar. And they're similar. Idolatry is spiritual adultery. You could say that. Idolatry is spiritual adultery. Yes. So yes, they are. I guess they are homonyms. All right, let's go to the next one here. Oh, you know what? Let's look at this real quick because I forgot about this. This adultery, na'af. Let me look at this because this is interesting here. Na'af, to commit adultery. Apostatize, adulterer, adulteress. Committing adultery, woman that breaketh wedlock. Na'af. So,
Pick it up.
Na'af. We have the noon, the aleph, and the hey.
Yeah, the dirty towel history.
Get a towel for that. And so, here, let me put this over here. Na'af.
Where's the cat for that?
This is a good representation of what this is. If you have this continually strong opening, if you have something that's an opening that's continually strong, there's no restraint to the opening. There's nothing that restrains it. There's nothing that holds it back. Right? And that's really what adultery is. Like, you don't have any self-control. You don't have any restrictions. Right? You belong to a particular individual, but then you go outside of that. Right? You refuse to restrict yourself. Right? You have a continually strong, your opening is continually open, unnecessarily, right? In a strong way to the wrong individuals, right? Adultery. Okay, enough said. Stealing. Thou shalt not steal. Right? Stealing. Oh, this is an interesting one here too. We're just gonna look at these words and then be done with this here. But this one here is ganab. Ganab. Here, let me look at this here. Stealing. You know, I experienced this one here. To thieve, to deceive, carry away, indeed secretly bring, steal away, or to get by stealth.
Did they ever give you your stuff back?
Nah, they didn't even begin the
Wow.
process.
Sheesh. So if you really get something totally valuable, I guess kiss it goodbye.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this one here, ganab, is you have a gimel, a noon, and a bait. Right? So that would be this little foot thing. And how, okay, so this one made me laugh a little bit because it made me think about I don't know how many people have had like been away and had your house broken into. And you have stuff just strewn everywhere. Stuff taken, stuff gone, everything's misplaced in disarray. Um, when somebody went into my car, as soon as I went in there, I was able to see, the glove box and secret compartments was open, papers everywhere, everything misplaced, right? Somebody came in and continually trampled my house, right? To have your house just be continually trampled through, right? To have your house be ran through continually, right? It's supposed to be a place of rest for you, but when the thieves come in, they come through and they trample about your stuff and then they actually take it, right? And so when we think about this idea of stealing, right, of taking away, again, when we look at the one after this one, it's kind of like, there's a really kind of a over arcing thing that happens with the 10th commandment that kind of touches each one of these other ones: murder and stealing and even potentially false witnessing, but this idea of taking things with deceit, right? This idea of taking things that aren't yours to be taken. That's what stealing is, of course. If we have any respect for our neighbors, people that's around us, mankind in general, we wouldn't take their things. And the Most High wants for us to be able to live and be in a way where we operate in a way that's loving and respectful towards others and their things. And so we have these things like he don't want for us to go ahead and take people's lives, right? He don't want for us to go ahead and take people's things, right? He don't want for us to go ahead and be with other men's wives, right? He don't want for us to have these false testimonies, right? False witness. Some this translation says, let me see, thou shalt not bear false witness, right? This really, when you think about this, really, it's really in the context of a kind of legal kind of a situation, bearing false witness. I'm not going to sit up here and testify that you did something that you didn't do. Right? We kind of narrow it down and say lie, right? But I think the true aspect of the situation is dealing with, kind of false accusations against people, right? The word literally means witness or testimony. And so when you think about that, again, it's really about kind of, saying these things about individuals that's false, kind of in a legal kind of situation. I'm not going to sit up here and I guess when you think about it, I guess it can be kind of watered down to just thinking about it as an idea of a lie, because lies typically always involve other people and things, right? Whether you're giving a false statement about something that you've done or didn't do, or giving a false statement about what somebody else did. And I think about a lot these kids over here, where you sit up here and you trying to get to the bottom of something that happened, and then one will say, that one did it. Well, kind of in that situation, that's kind of a legal situation that's going on, right? You have your parent who's judging the situation, and the kids are like the prosecuted and the defendant, right? And oftentimes these kids sit up here and bear false witness against another one, because they don't want to get in trouble.
Wasn't me.
Yeah, it wasn't me. You saying it wasn't me? You done just bear false witness, right? And so the Most High wants for us to be able to deal with one another uprightly, right? And take responsibility for your things. Don't be wrongly throwing people under the bus, right? So again, we think about this idea of bearing false witness. It's lying really is it's almost kind of a watered down version of it, but it's probably still correct, I would say. And then lastly, we think about this in verse 17, where it says that thou shalt not covet, right? And then all the things that you shouldn't covet. And then if there wasn't enough things that was said, it says whatever belongs to your neighbor, right? Once it went through the house or the wife or the servant or the female servant or the ox or the donkey or whatever belongs to your neighbor, thou shalt not covet. And so I always think it is important to talk about the fact that coveting is having a strong desire for something. The thing that makes it negative is the fact that it's something that's not yours. You can have a strong desire as as a single man have a strong desire for a single woman that's walking down the street. That's how people get together and get married.
Right.
You have a strong desire for that person. That's not, but the problem is when that person belongs to somebody else already.
Right.
And you can look outside and see somebody's modern day donkey or ox, and you might say, well, I want one of those.
Exactly. Right.
But it can't be that one, because that one's someone else's.
So you can be like, I want one of those, but you can't be like, I want yours.
Right. Yeah. Right. You go out and get your own.
Exactly.
Ask them where they got it from so you could go get one.
Right.
I do that all the time. Well, not about cars, but I see something that somebody has that I want. Oh, where you get that from?
Exactly.
I'm trying to get me one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But that's different from, because you wanting theirs is always going to lead to taking it.
But it's funny. We go to this verse, and the stuff that he's speaking in this verse, you go up, it can lead to all the things.
It leads to all the things. And these are all the things, because if you take it, now you got to lie. You got to give false witness to say that you didn't take it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You took it, and
you're
then
idolizing it because you're putting it above the order of the Most High for what He said to do. Then you might have to kill for it if you get caught. Thou shalt not kill. You know what I mean? It's gotta go up the line.
When you look at coveting, it's one of those things that it potentially could touch all these other ones, but most oftentimes it literally does touch all the other ones, because it's going to get you to the place where you're going to act. You want, it's a strong desire. You want the thing so bad that you just go ahead and do it. And so, Yeshua, people talk about Yeshua and talk about, him intensifying the commandments. If you lust after somebody in your heart, and you committed adultery with them, right? Mm-hmm. But there's no difference between what he said and this over here with coveting.
Exactly.
Because if I sit up here and lust after somebody so much to the point where it causes me to have an action, there's no difference.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we think about this thing, this covenant, again, it's this thing that, it really can't spill into all these other things, because, when you have this, it's again, the word is simply just a strong desire. Mm-hmm. The thing that makes it something that we need not to be doing is the fact that it's dealing with, all of these other things that are actually belong to someone else. If we then strongly desire, as human beings, if as a man, if you never strongly desire a woman, then you're gonna be single for the rest of your life.
Yeah. You
got to strongly desire that woman at some point, right? But you can't be out here strongly desiring other people's women, right? If you see something nice outside, a car or something, or a house or something, you go and figure out how you can go and get yourself one, your own, right? Not get into these other things and stealing somebody else's or killing for somebody else's. Again, when we start doing these commandments, we start manifesting the character of the Most High. which is what the Most High wants for us to do. So when we look at these commandments, these laws, statutes, and commands the Most High put forth, and again, understanding that these, came forth, in line with Shavuot, and thinking about the Spirit being poured out, the Most High putting His Spirit in your heart and in your mind and transforming you from the inside out to cause you to walk around and do these things, to cause you to look at man and have love and compassion for man and not do things that's against him. Right? For you to understand who the Most High is and do everything in your power so that you don't have to worry about the fact that he's so awesome that he could literally kill you at any moment. He said over here, don't fear, for Elohim has come to prove you, and in order that his fear be before you so that you do not sin. He does not want you to be in a place that's contrary or against himself. He wants you to be on his side. He wants you to understand that there's some grave consequences from being on the other side, but we shouldn't have to worry with that Spirit inside of us because it's leading and guiding us into all righteousness, right? So we need to, just closing down, we need to, be dealing with, the Spirit and allowing the Spirit to grow inside of us, because when that happens, it causes us to walk around and do and be the people that the Most High has required for us to be, right? We have to always remember that Spirit in us, it has a purpose. It has a purpose, right? And we need to be manifesting that purpose and being that people, right? Who, again, is that set apart people, who is a nation of priests and a light and salt in this earth. Okay, so does anybody have any thoughts about any of that stuff? Okay, that being said, for now, we are going to be done with this for now. And y'all willing? Next week, I believe we'll be doing trumpets will be coming up. So I believe that we'll probably do that as opposed to the Torah portion, but we'll still probably put something up. Probably have to do with the feast day, and then we'll get back to the Torah portion after that. So y'all willing, of course. So for now, we'll say Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.